evolution is a change in gene frequencies, a shift in gene frequencies, or a change in the distribution of traits in a population. And what we really want to know is, how does this process happen? So did we see evolution in clipbirds? Did the clipbird populations evolve at all? Was there a shift in distribution of traits?
Yes.
Yes. I can't remember which class it was. One class had small-billed clipbirds go completely extinct. Was that you guys?
Yeah.
On one side of the island? That's a shift in traits. That's a shift in distributions when something goes extinct. And on one side of the island, I think the medium-sized clipbirds really thrived. So we went from having an even distribution to having a distribution where it was at least skewed, because we had no small clipbirds on one side. That's a shift in trait distribution. We would assume that there's a shift in gene frequencies there. And, the sort of leading question was, what causes this? What is the mechanism behind these shifting gene frequencies? Oh, wait, I think I know. Do you think you know? Do you think you know? Do you? Do you know? You know? Natural selection. Have we talked about this before? Have we said the words natural selection before?
Yeah.
We did? We did? I think we did. I hope we did. I think we did. I don't know. What do I know? I'm just along for the ride. The mechanism of evolution is natural selection. And this is amazing because Charles Darwin proposed this long before we knew a lot of the underlying biology of how natural selection works. Proposed it before we knew what DNA was. Proposed it before we knew a lot of the genetics that we know now. And pretty much his proposal stands. And the first thing about natural selection you got to know is everyone's a little different. All populations have natural variation. Hey, it feels like I've heard that someplace before. That's weird. So all populations have natural variation, and life is tough. The environment presents challenges to survival and reproduction. What challenge did the clipbirds face? Getting enough food, getting enough calories, not to die, getting enough calories to be able to reproduce. The environment presents challenges. Life is tough. For rabbits, everything wants to eat them. That's a challenge to survival. Coyotes want to eat them. Owls want to eat them. Hawks want to eat them. Cats want to eat them. Maybe you like to eat them. I don't know. Rabbit stew. The environment presents challenges to survival and reproduction. Life is tough. Anybody starting to feel like these are somewhat familiar? Whoops. Individuals tend to produce more offspring than will survive. That mama rabbit has a litter of 8 kits. What are the odds that all 8 of those kits are going to survive to have kits of their own? Pretty bad. They meet with cars and cats and dogs and coyotes and hawks, diseases, lawnmowers. The environment is tough. There are a whole lot more individuals born than will make it to adulthood. Many will die. So going with that, sort of 3-word summary, everybody is different, life is tough, many will die, which sounds like the trailer for some sort of horrible movie. What's the 4th mechanism? Do you remember? Because we have talked about this before. We've talked about this before. I know it. What is the 4th point? You got a mutation, you got a feature that gives you some advantage for survival. You tend to pass on more of your genes. So, the rabbit that has extra good camouflage, the rabbit that hides really well, the possum that doesn't pass out in front of cars. Individuals with a mutation or a feature that have some advantage for survival tend to pass on more of their genes. Does anybody want to, and I very intentionally gave you credit, whatever you put. Hey, you did pretty good. If you missed that 4 points of natural selection on your viewing guide, I knew you hadn't seen it yet in the notes. So if you want to revamp your viewing guide, of course, that study guide, not viewing guide, that study guide, because that's to help you study. So individuals with mutations or features that have an advantage tend to pass on more of their genes. They might have more babies, more of their babies survive, they're better at getting calories, they're better at getting calories for their babies, they're better at escaping from predators. That's the mechanism. That is the mechanism. Natural selection. The longer the generations are, the slower the process is, right? What has short generations?
Cockroach.
Rabbits, cockroaches, lots of insects. Some. But I mean, what has like hour-long generations? Bacteria! Hey, guess what we were really talking about when we talked about antibiotic resistance in bacteria? Evolution. That's all it is. It is the easiest, fastest way to visualize evolution. Do you remember the big Harvard Med School megaplate video that we watched? Guess what those bacteria were doing? Evolving in front of your eyes. Very rapidly because they have short generations. So let's walk through an example of this. Are all bacteria of any given species identical? No. They might have thicker cell walls. They might have a slightly different chemical they use in protein synthesis. The protein coating they build for the outside might be a little bit different. Those are differences. That's variation. So, is the environment difficult for disease-causing bacteria? Yeah. Your immune system's killing off bacteria right now. You've got white blood cells that are eating bacteria in your body right now, I betcha. We cook ground beef to 160 degrees to kill bacteria. That horrible thing where we try to poison them. We take chemicals to deliberately inflict harm upon bacteria. How terrible of us. Do bacteria produce more offspring than are expected to survive? Yeah. As long as the conditions are right, they will continue to reproduce. They just keep splitting and splitting and splitting and splitting and splitting. More offspring are born than will survive. And I will put all 4 of these on one slide in just a second. Which bacteria survive? The strong ones. This is what we talked about in the first couple weeks of school. The ones that have some difference that allows them to survive what's trying to kill them. Here's the thing. Adaptations often, not always, but often begin as mutations. You get that variation. And when that variation gives an individual an advantage, it gets passed on with greater frequency. The characteristics of a population, the frequency of genes, typically are responding to pressures in the environment. Disease, shortage of food, changes in the climatic conditions. That's what causes shifts in populations, typically. Okay, tomorrow when you come in, you will have a quiz. It should not take you more than 20 or 30 minutes. If everybody gets done, and I think everybody will, we're going to start talking about the evidence for the process. You'll get your vocab packet. That's what you'll get. So part C for your vocab is due tomorrow. Are there any words that we have not talked about in class contextually? We have not contextualized?